was easy. Okay, make sure that doesn't start a fire. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Excuse me. My name is Lane Russell, and you're watching Midnight. Standard disclaimer applies. This is a work entirely of my own opinion and does not necessarily reflect the opinion of the Internet. Tonight I want to talk about racism. When President Obama took over, his Attorney General Eric Holder called the United States a nation of cowards regarding matters of race. Since then, I've learned to attach no credibility whatsoever to anything he says, but it is important, I feel, to closely examine the charge made against the character of the nation. It appears to stem from the idea that we in this country do not have some kind of ongoing racial dialogue, no sustained efforts to bridge gaps or promote understanding. I can understand this easily. I've enjoyed black-oriented media such as BET and the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and I particularly enjoy the segment It's Your World, the 5-minute comedy soap opera. But overall, there is a perception encouraged by the producers and the advertisers of this media, perception that white people are sinister, evil beings bent on corruption and exploitation of all races that aren't white. The music is rife with messages inciting violence against women and the police and other black people. There's been a rising tide of black-on-white violence underreported or downright suppressed by the media. And of course there is the case of young Trayvon Martin, where the news media actively and intentionally lied about any aspect of the story they possibly could. In addition, the Brad Paisley LL Cool J collaboration, The Accidental Racist, has met with some derision by members who presume to speak for the black community. The song, while admittedly sappy and perhaps a little short-sighted, seems to be an honest effort by two artists to address a very real problem, an honest effort roundly poo-pooed by professional grievance mongers. So I kind of appreciate that starting a dialogue on this subject is not the easiest thing in the world to do. Standing in the way of honest dialogue and genuine understanding, I think, is the dominant narrative in society today. According to this narrative, white people are not supposed to have anything positive or constructive to say about race. There are two prepared roles into which white people are required to fit. One is allowed either to be a closet racist or an insufferable kiss-ass. The roles are easy enough. The closet racist knows that racism is unacceptable, so they must hide their racism by prefacing everything they say with, "I'm not a racist, but." The insufferable kiss-ass, on the other hand, must loudly and zealously proclaim his love of everything black or black-related, whether it has anything to do with the conversation or not. These roles, of course, are not mutually exclusive. It is possible for extra points to be both a closet racist and an insufferable kiss-ass, and this is most likely if your ass-kissing closet racist is also Republican. But thoughtful observation and commentary are discouraged by the self-appointed gatekeepers of this very topic. Take the Trayvon Martin case, for instance. George Zimmerman, local neighborhood watch captain, shot Martin, was examined and questioned by police, and was released because he claimed self-defense. Now, the pictures of Martin and Zimmerman distributed by the news media were years out of date. I looked at these pictures and I asked myself, what is that white guy's problem? What persuaded him to shoot a 12-year-old kid? What were those cops thinking? And I felt angry. Not just because it looked like the killing had been racially motivated, but also because I hate seeing any child murdered anywhere. Zimmerman's picture made him look like an ogre, scowling eyes, unshaven face, and he looked like a man angry at the world, angry enough perhaps to kill a kid. Martin, on the other hand, looked like a sweet, innocent little boy who would never hurt anyone. But as time wore on and other facts became known, I became angrier and angrier, not with Zimmerman, but with the news outlets who had slandered him and prejudiced his case. For one thing, Zimmerman was not white, he was Hispanic. Peruvian, to be precise. When this little factoid got out, the media did not apologize for lying. They touted him as a white Hispanic. Now, I've known Hispanic people throughout my life, and not one of them ever considered themselves a white Hispanic. I am aware that on census forms there are blank which read white Hispanic and white non-Hispanic, but government documents are the only places you will ever find such a nonsensical classification. After that, everything the media had put out turned out to be a pack of lies. We were shown Trayvon Martin as a cute kid who did no one any harm. In reality, he was 17 years old, 6 feet tall, 158 pounds, and playing at the thug life. George Zimmerman wasn't an angry white guy with an axe to grind. He was a Peruvian family man who had mentored minority kids in his spare time and was captain of the neighborhood watch. At the time of Trayvon's shooting, the neighborhood they lived in had been hit by a rash of burglaries, so Zimmerman's concern about a kid he didn't know who might have been casing a house wasn't as unreasonable as it was made to seem. Now, my intention here is not to justify shooting Trayvon Martin. What I am doing is pointing out how a lying media can make things harder when all they care about is selling a lurid and sensational story. Consider how far out of the way the media went to incite public opinion against Zimmerman. They lied about his race. They tampered with the 911 audio to make him sound racist. They published out-of-date photographs of him and Martin. They buried Martin's history of aggression, misogyny, and alleged drug use, while Zimmerman's personal history was hyped. They hid the wounds that Zimmerman sustained when Martin attacked him. They did everything they could to turn Zimmerman into a boogeyman and Martin into a cherubic child sacrifice. They have not once apologized for any of the lies they broadcast, nor have they taken responsibility for what they have put out. What did they think was going to happen? I know many people within the black community, and I can say this. The black community is not monolithic. It is quite heterogeneous. It is in fact as richly varied and diverse as any other subset of the American population. There are, however, a few subjects which will push the hot button on almost the entire black population of the country, and the apparently racially motivated slaying of a kid by an angry white man is one of those things. One would have to be the most brain-dead, manure-witted, ignorant, know-nothing jackass not to know this. My hypothesis is this. Either ABC, NBC, CNN, or NBC were out to start a race war in America, or every network just mentioned is completely staffed by clones of Keith Olbermann. The dominant media narrative, the mindset that white people are default racists and thus have no legitimacy in addressing racial problems, is related to the bigger lie that the Republican Party is a party of rich, racist white people. The reasoning goes that black Americans are experiencing more health problems, higher crime rates, lower life expectancies, and higher prison populations because white Republicans are racist and want black people to suffer because racism. But really, which party has worked harder to impoverish, imprison, and degrade black people? I'll give you a hint. Not the Republican Party. The Democratic Party was in charge of slavery in the United States before the Civil War and fought most vigorously to keep it intact. In 1857, Supreme Court Chief Justice Roger Taney, a Democrat, wrote the opinion in the Dred Scott case that runaway slaves must be returned when found. Taney went even further, stating that black Americans could not be considered citizens of the United States whether free or slave, and that they had, quote, no rights to which the white man was bound to respect, unquote. When the Confederacy was defeated in 1865, a Republican Congress outlawed slavery and later extended full rights of citizenship to the newly freed black slaves. Democratic lawmakers responded by passing black codes and Jim Crow laws and forbidding black Americans to carry arms. Later, the Ku Klux Klan, referred to at the time as the military arm of the Democratic Party, began terrorizing free black Americans and white Republicans. The NRA responded by training and arming black citizens so that they could defend themselves against Democratic aggression. Republicans were the driving force behind every single civil rights action until 1968, when Democratic President Lyndon Baines Johnson, famous for declaring something or other about taking shackles off a man and asking him to run a foot race, signed the Civil Rights Act of 1968 on board Air Force One. While remarking in the hearing of two governors present, This'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And the Democratic war on black people has continued unabated. Go to any city where the majority of black residents live in crappy low-income housing, where crime rates are high, fathers and jobs are largely absent, where despair and apathy triumph and hope is crushed to the ground. And you will find a Democrat in charge. Democrats have been working to destroy the black family, just as they did in the slave days, and it has worked a treat. They work to drive up crime by disarming the public and making self-defense illegal. Black-on-black crime is rising. Black babies are slaughtered at substandard abortion clinics at twice the rate white babies are. And every Democrat's answer to this problem is, we need more of what caused this. Now, I've said that white people are kept out of the conversation by accusations of racism. But when a black person tries to address the problem with actual solutions that might work, they are derided as Uncle Tom or race traitor, not authentically black, or wants to be black. Oreo being black on the outside and white on the inside. Now, as to who died and made them the arbiter of what is or is not authentically black is something they've never clarified. But a whole lot more people, black and white, need to be asking that very question. The perception, the lie, that white people are to act one way and black people another is one of the most potent and poisonous reasons we do not have an actual dialogue about race. According to those who vote Democrat, black people are supposed to walk with a limp, talk like they've just got out of a lobotomy, wear their pants sagging around their knees, and exhibit unconscionable disregard for both women and their fellow men. By contrast, white people are supposed to over-enunciate everything they say, be devoid of passion, especially sexual passion, be perpetually timid, insecure, and uncomfortable. And most importantly, white people are supposed to carry loads and loads of nebulous and ill-defined white guilt. I say that anyone pushing this viewpoint is someone utterly devoid of credibility and unworthy of my time or attention. Accepting this false dichotomy would mean that I must accept that one's race or color or ethnicity is the determining factor in an individual's behavior. And that is a monstrous lie. There is no such thing as acting black or acting white. There is only acting like a decent human being on the one hand and acting like a goat-humping jackass on the other. And it's that mindset that is our greatest obstacle to understanding. Let's be real here. The history of race in America is not black and white. There's also American Indians, Chinese, Irish, and Jews, and that's just a few of them. The history of this country is written in the blood of all men, red, white, black, and yellow, and others, as is the history of the world. Everyone is descended from somebody who oppressed somebody else, but the United States has always excelled in trying to come to grips with its problems and make amends for them, and that alone makes us the greatest country in the world. Turning black and white against each other only enriches mountebanks and hucksters like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Louis Farrakhan, Democratic Party stooges like Cynthia McKinney, Charlie Rangel, and Maxine Waters, and other unhinged, insane, or just plain stupid people, too numerous here to name. When black and white people learn to get along, respect each other, and not take this race BS so seriously, these people will be out of a job. They'll have to find actual work. Can you imagine Al Sharpton hanging drywall? Charlie Rangel actually using his admittedly limited mind for computer or graphic design? Cynthia McKinney is a customer service rep. They can, and it terrifies them, because then they will finally and truly be one of us. My name is Lane Russell, and you've been watching Midnight.